What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to Moto Adventurer. Today we are in Slade, Kentucky, about to tackle the Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway with the Himalayan. For those that don't know, the Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway is a recreational route here in Slade, Kentucky that goes all the way down to about London, and includes basically legal, forgotten county roads that are mostly unmaintained. We're going to do some of the lighter sections today, but this is probably going to be some of the hardest riding we're going to get a chance to do on the Himalayan before we hand it back to the folks over at Throttle Company. As a quick side note, we just crossed over about 1,700 miles on the Himalayan today. It was actually about 170 miles to get here this morning. Took the highway the whole way. So for folks wanting to know about the range of the bike, the gas light came on around 155. Speed limit's 70 miles an hour on the highway on the way here. So 4.5 gallon tank. It has the ability to do 200 miles, and that's pretty sweet. So ideally, we're going to do stuff that I would call intermediate routes today. Unfortunately, the weather forecast is not good. So it's very likely we might unfortunately have to cut the day short. But for the most part, it's going to be scenic parts of the Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway, a lot of water crossings, and hopefully we'll catch lunch before we have to run home to avoid all the thunderstorms. So this is Fixer-Leeco Road. This has been a staple of the Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway pretty much since day one. And for folks that come to Red River Scramble, this is a perennial favorite. Now, it's a little gnarlier than it used to be. Unfortunately, I had to move it up to the advanced bracket. You saw me a few minutes ago coming over those rock ledges. That is getting worse and worse with each basically rainstorm that comes through. But you know, we love this road, and it's a lot of fun once you get down in the valley and into the creek. Unfortunately, that entry and exit's getting a little tough on the one end. Ultimately, if you have the bike or the skill set, this is a great place to come play with even some of the big adventure bikes if you've got the right skid plate. This morning, it's obviously rained overnight, so that clay on top of those rocks is a serious no-no, and I don't want to break a bike that doesn't belong to me. So I was very skittish, especially as the front wheel was sliding to the left of that first rock there. So we got a lot more on tap today, though, but this is one of my favorites, and this is the first one right out of the chute. The sounds of summer, man. Those cicadas are going, it is definitely July, and I bet it's not before 10, and I am sweating bullets out here. Pretty much the story of the whole series, right? So this is Sinking Creek. It is called that for what you would imagine it is. In the summer, there are large portions of this creek that not only disappear, but they actually run underground. We're doing the easier section, but basically we're just crossing Sinking Creek right now, and then we're headed up to, I think it's Hawk Branch, I think is the name of it, and then we're headed up to New Virginia Ridge, but we're gonna run along Sinking Creek. For folks that are interested in the more advanced stuff, Sinking Creek's pretty gnarly, a lot of clay-covered rocks and whatnot, but there's a section where you literally see a river coming out of a cave. So it's a sweet place to hang out. Like I said, this whole Fixer-Leeco Valley is one of the best things that DBB has to offer that's right off the highway. So Bear Track is this old school mom and pop general store right on 52. So it's between Lago Linda and 11, for lack of a better term. Old school, no pay at the pump, like metal numbers that turn on the gas pumps. So it's funny when you get a big group of bikes in here, you're like, handing the, the fuel nozzle over to your buddy. But they cook hot food on weekdays, and then on the weekends you can get, like, I got a hot sandwich, and then you can sometimes get pizza for lunch. So we're a little early today because I try to dodge the weather. So see how that goes. But I love these mom and pop places, man, and I love supporting local. What's great is it's in between several trails here, so you're not like on the asphalt for much time at all. So this is Bald Rock Fork, a perennial favorite of mine, and a wonderful time to remind people that we love splashing in creeks down here in Kentucky and on the Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway, but know now, when you see creeks with rocks like that, sometimes there's all the traction in the world, and sometimes that's actually a skating rink. So word to the wise, especially in one of the previous sections that I just showed, there's a place where if you wander into that water, you're probably not getting that bike back. Not because it's deep, but because even your boots will slip on the rocks. So make sure you're careful out there. And as you can see, this whole Fixer-Leeco Valley area full of awesome creeks to splash in. Just be smart when you're out there on the trail. So I want to talk about the Himmy for a minute. Out here on this, what I would call intermediate stuff, and Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway parts that are my favorites, the Himmy has been incredible. Non-adjustable suspension, absolutely perfect for me. For folks who didn't see the other videos, I'm 5'10", 170, like the bike is absolutely built for me. Can you override it and all that stuff? Sure you can, but that's the case anytime when we're talking about an adventure bike. So I just want to point out, like, out of the box, for a person who wants to come adventure ride for the first time, who I understand is under that weight threshold, the bike is just absolutely killer and just so welcoming to come out and do some stuff that if you're not wearing the right tires and you're not paying attention, yeah, you can do some dumb stuff and have some issues, and the bike is just super easy to ride. The weight is just so low and the bike is just so easy to manage. It's amazing how I can ride the same stuff on my T7, and we can have an argument about what's actually better. But I feel more confident, especially from stock, attacking some of this stuff on the Himmy versus the T7, purely because the weight feels like it's at the pegs, whereas the T7, once it starts to tip too much, you're kind of in deep trouble just because the weight's so much higher. So just some comments on that, because today's kind of like the hardest day that it's seen so far, and at this point I don't think I want to push it too much further because it's not mine, but maybe someday, we'll see. But yeah, just out of the box, what an incredible bike to take people on adventures. Just been incredible so far. So that's Cave Fork Road. That is probably the bread and butter of what I would call intermediate. It's rocky, gravel road, like some potholes and whatnot, but none of the water is especially deep, especially if you stay to one side or the other. It really is, it's a place that intermediate folks or folks that are interested in scenic can start to get a taste of something that's more intermediate. And to me, that's the fun zone on most big bikes. The only catch is you got to be careful out here on all the roads I've shown you thus far. Lots of people do horseback ride through here. So be careful when you get a big head of steam and you come around the corner, just to make sure that there's not an equine altercation that we weren't looking for.
South of town, Hell Creek Road runs along the east side of 11 down into the valley, and with a couple creek crossings. It's mostly just a scenic gravel road that runs under the cliff line. For folks that are looking for something a little spicier, it's ultimately the connector that takes you into Fincastle and Walker Creek, but that's going to be a video for a different day. Wrapping up Hell Creek Road a little sooner than I expected, I decided to head back up north towards Slade so I can catch one of my all-time favorites.
So this is Chopped Chestnut Road. This is, oh, longtime favorite since day one, truthfully. That and Fixer-Leeco both have been perennials. This is actually not part of Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway anymore. As you can see on the way in, you run through a quarry. I believe the company asked the original architect of the Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway if they could take that off there because they were just worried about Jeeps and whatnot going through. On the weekends, it's not that big a deal. So at any rate, it's still been on the Kentucky Adventure Tour for a long time, so we still ride it, and obviously the locals know about it, so you see people on it. Like, it's just a giant sandstone ridge, lots of, you know, different rocks, and there's actually quite a bit of sand to play around on. It's not, you know, Michigan or Florida beach sand, but for folks that aren't used to riding in sand, it will sneak up on you, and obviously there's a few mud holes to watch out for. It's a relatively short trail, but it's one of my favorites, so I try to hit it every chance I'm here. So I hope folks enjoyed the tour today. Obviously there's so much more of Daniel Boone Backcountry Byway that folks need to check out, so I'm hoping to keep doing those videos. But as far as the Himmy's concerned, I mean, it really impressed me today. I was kind of worried that I hadn't pushed it hard enough on the brap or the sole, but it was phenomenal on, like I said, what I call this intermediate stuff. It's fun to ride. Now, like I said, can you override it? Absolutely, but it's been a hoot. And I had said before, had the Himalayan been available before I had bought the T7, I probably would have pulled the trigger on that. There's some overlap between that and the Scrambler, but I don't think I would have been disappointed. There are definitely places where the Himalayan's easier to ride, and there are places where the T7 is the better choice, especially, you know, long trips on the highway and whatnot. Twin's a little bit more relaxed. There's something to be said for that. But in the end, it's definitely impressed me. I've enjoyed my time with it, and then here before long, hopefully I can do a full review, and then we'll get it back to Throttle Company. We'll catch you guys down the road.